Hello and welcome to another episode of the Building Business Podcast. My name is Dixon. Today we are joined by Tyler Fulkman. Tyler is the Chief AI Officer at JobNimbus. We're talking about contractors and AI. We're talking about building trust. We're talking about specific tools that you can use in your business to help your employees stay more efficient. And we're also talking about some tools that JobNimbus is rolling out to help with that. So school at BYU.
Yep.
And then you went to, did you immediately go do a master's or?
No, I worked in consulting for 2-3 years.
What kind of consulting?
Economic consulting.
Ooh, so your degree was?
Economics.
Economics, okay. So I'm curious about all that.
Yeah.
Economics, you did consulting. When was more technical, or I guess because your master's is in?
Computer science.
Computer science, right. So when did you decide you wanted to dive into that a little bit more? Or was that always a thing?
I've always enjoyed computer science, the art of programming.
Mm-hmm.
I would say after a year or two in consulting, I was doing a lot of programming for them. Just wasn't my degree, but I found a lot of value in it. And machine learning started getting really popular at the time. I'm trying to think what are some of the big things that came out then, like AlphaGo. That was a little bit later, but those types of things, are starting to blow up. Deep computer vision. The predicting, hot dog, not hot dog on Silicon Valley, like that type of stuff was kind of happening a little bit after that time. And so I wanted to get more into machine learning, the idea of learning how to predict outcomes with data.
Okay.
So that's when I went back to grad school.
Cool.
Computer science generally is very heavy in machine learning if you want it to be, versus economics is more statistical. A little different, but a lot of my undergrad was using data to make economic decisions at a smaller data scale. And then my master's program was how do we take that to bigger SaaS-level data and make more fancy algorithms, essentially.
Okay. Cool. And you went to UT?
UT Austin, yeah.
Nice, dude. So I grew up in Bastrop, so southeast side, kind of in the boonies. But what's your favorite memory from Austin? As one of my favorite cities, I just have to ask, favorite memory, favorite restaurant? I'm just curious because you were there kind of when I left.
Okay.
So
it's all kind of a blur. I had twins when I was there.
Yeah.
And I was in grad school. So we didn't have a ton of money. We weren't eating out a lot of home cooked meals. I do really like the barbecue in Austin.
Yeah.
Legitimately, Texas barbecue is hard to replicate.
It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
I haven't found it elsewhere. But
so that was probably food wise and just nice people. Texas, Austin particularly has really nice people, pretty family friendly. Yeah, we really enjoyed it. Just the summers were a little brutal.
Yeah, no, there are many reasons why I don't live there now, but the summers were really, really tough. Okay, so you were getting your master's. After your master's, what was kind of the step? I'm curious. I'm trying to paint the picture just so you're aware. How did we get from, computer science, your data background into kind of what we're doing today. So I'm just kind of curious, what was your path right after your grad school experience and kind of where, did you immediately come back here? Or I'm just curious kind of how that went.
Yeah, I came back to Utah to take a job at Ancestry.
Cool.
Which is genealogy, pretty large company. A lot of people have heard of them. And I was one of their first Utah data science hires to try to unlock the data value that they had. And again, more machine learning. So can we take things like genealogical records and help you connect them better, find your relatives maybe you didn't know existed. One of the cooler projects we did was using computer vision and natural language processing to process really old newspapers and pull out the obituaries and create searchable genealogical records from them. So you could go in and try to find your people in actual newspapers, which is really cool. You can kind of get the history of that time, see what was going on. And that one was super fun. I think it's now the largest record set for obituaries because it's all machine learned. You just feed it newspapers and it grabs them and spits them out. Now that doesn't seem as cool maybe, but back then it was a long project to do the computer vision, the natural language, a lot of understanding the expertise of genealogists.
Yeah, was that before LLMs kind of had a user interface?
Before LLMs existed.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Legitimately, as a concept, they did not exist at the time.
So even a precursor to that where now it's we're used to being able to pull or sort through massive sets of data, but being able to do that beforehand, I would not have known how to handle that.
It was a year project, a lot of development. And I think the Wall Street Journal wrote an article about it. It was really cool.
Nice, man. Yeah. That's awesome. So what was the leap like from Ancestry over to TubeBuddy or Ben Labs? Like how long were you at Ancestry, and then kind of when did you switch, and what were you looking for?
Ancestry, yeah, I think around like 3 to 4 years.
Cool.
Then they reached out to me to do some work. Ben Labs, they wanted to understand social media better from a data perspective. So they were hiring a data scientist, essentially the first data scientist for the company, with the idea of that person being able to grow, lead the team, build it out. So when I was at Ancestry, I liked it, but saw this opportunity for maybe more growth and leadership. So jumped over there. It's a different world completely. YouTube data, social data, Instagram, trying to figure out what makes something go viral, trying to predict views, predict outcomes, help marketers find the right influencers to work with. Really hard problems, actually, because virality and trending is, by definition, hard to predict.
Right.
So we spent a lot of time digging through that data, built a large data science team, actually, and did some cool stuff. We had some really interesting models. It was harder to get them to deploy to marketers. Like the human element gets a little bit trickier at what we were doing because we were more of a marketing agency. So we bought TubeBuddy, which was a SaaS consumer product where we sold a software subscription to help you grow faster, optimize your YouTube channel. Then we started pumping some of that intelligence through YouTube. So you could come in and we would automatically grab your similar competitors in your space, show you what was working for them. We run LLMs through it and extract the topics that were working, that weren't working. It was really, the goal was to help YouTubers know what to do with the data and tell them, hey, here's something you should do, like an action, as opposed to here's just a bunch of data.
That's awesome. So you're basically breaking down the elements of the content that was doing well, you know, whether it was like the industry or were you doing stuff with like understanding what like the call to action was or like the hooks? So even that granular.
Yeah, LLMs help a lot. You can start to ask them questions like, what is the hook?
Yeah.
And then you can start to categorize it, build data sets around it, what works, what doesn't work. We had, I think, around 17 million users when I left. So there was a lot of data that we could start to look at and then try to connect those dots. Kind of what we're trying to do a little bit with even like this peak performance report of, hey, we have all this data. Let's connect the dots globally for the people in the industry to see what's working, what's not working, and help them find best practices.
Yeah.
But hyper-personalized, because you could come into the product and we would know what you were doing and could apply it.
That's awesome. It's something that like we know the data's out there, especially for, you know, contractors and roofers. Just finding it, compiling it, it's got to be, you know, especially as fewer and fewer like true pen and paper businesses exist, right? Like we're centralizing a little bit more digitally some of that data.
Right.
And then obviously like if people are able to, you know, volunteer some of their experience or, you know, which is what we've done with peak performance, right? We basically, you know, surveyed and collected that data manually, being able to sort through that and just kind of define it, analyze it, break it down however it makes sense. Super helpful.
Yes.
So I'm curious what the leap was like from something like TubeBuddy over to JobNimbus, different industries, different problems altogether. What was that experience like for you? And also, I'll ask more questions after that, but kind of curious what that's like.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought it, but a lot of parallels between what I did at TubeBuddy and here. For example, creators don't really care about data analytics. They're not data scientists or analysts. They want to grow their YouTube business, make more money, grow more views, get more subscribers. I feel that's very similar for where we're working with contractors. They don't really care about the data for its own sake. They want to grow their business, spend more time with their families, you know, make more money, do all the things that a normal business owner would want to do. So the AI problem is a little more interesting to me because you want to drive outcomes for them. As opposed to some more tech-centric audiences, they actually want to dig around in the data, figure things out, connect the dots themselves, and dig deeper. Really what we're trying to do here isn't too dissimilar from TubeBuddy, which is to abstract away some of that complexity and use AI to tell you what you should do and help make it easy. Because a lot of times it's not that hard once the data's in front of you if you know how to do something with it. Mm-hmm. But there is a big gap for someone trying to grow a business with their time, their energy, their expertise. Most roofers don't come from a data background. Most creators on YouTube don't come from a data background. But they find themselves where they have to be a jack of all trades. So how can we as JobNimbus help them make actionable insights from the data as easy and as automatic as possible? And AI really is taking that to another level.
Yeah, because we're giving them tools essentially. Like maybe you don't know, to your point, right? Like maybe they don't understand all the ins and outs of social media marketing,
Right.
for example. That's where my career started. I spent a lot of time kind of diving into trends and to, all the specific analytics that make a social channel thrive
Right.
and succeed. Giving them tools where they're like, hey, here's the data, here's some things you can do with that data, here's some stuff that we've already done. So I guess how do you approach empowering through JobNimbus tools or through just your philosophy with building tools for contractors? How do you approach enabling contractors to do more?
Yeah, one thing that very recently I've just been thinking about with some other people here, like Brian, our CRO, is how do we become your system of action as opposed to just a system of information? Mm-hmm. So how do we as a product, if you want to, let's say, submit a supplement for insurance, make it as easy as just doing that? Like, okay, I have this task, I want it done. Maybe I do it myself or someone in the back office would do it and they have to go through all these hoops. What if you could just talk or write a few things down and our system would do the action, complete the value for you? Kind of that value chain is getting a lot more automatable. Where in the past, the value chain, maybe like the first little bit you could automate and then you need a lot of humans in the loop. Mm-hmm. With AI and the right training and the right context can really take the value end to end if the system's set up right.
Right.
So a lot of what we're trying to do is how do we build the product that's so good that it can take action on your behalf that you can trust? That's a whole nother level of success for these people.
Yeah, it's the difference of like proactivity versus, I guess, more of like a passive approach to it, where you're not just like giving them the tools to go ahead and build whatever they feel like within it. The goal is to set them up for the most success, where they just say yes to that, yes I want to do that, no I don't want to do that. It brings up a good point though, from your point of view currently as it stands. Like kind of where's the split? Where do you feel like machine learning is good enough to do it on its own, and where do you feel like maybe a more human touch needs to step in and be a little bit more of a guiding force?
Right now, I've been continually impressed with what AI can accomplish in the world of software. For example, let's take a roofer. If you want to go from here's a contact to getting the whole estimate built out, sending it out, making sure the invoices are sent, ordering the supplies, making sure they're delivered, all those touch points become programmatic. We can programmatically, and we do this, connect with the suppliers and order the supplies. We can programmatically send information to the contact of the job. We can programmatically create an invoice or an estimate. AI with the right context could do that whole thing end to end if we could set up the right underlying layer. And a lot of companies are starting to deal with that now, is how do we build the system around the AI that enables that to happen? Where it's not going to disrupt a lot of things is the human element of selling the job. Humans right now want to talk to a person. They want to understand, why does my roof need this? All those human components, and AI is not going to replace, unless it's just transactional. Transactional conversations like, I need help with X. Mm-hmm. If an AI can answer that, great. But when you're really trying to build a relationship, to build understanding, to work in the space of more emotional context, the AI doesn't really have that capacity, in my opinion. It can try. Most people don't want that. But man, if you can live in the world of software, you can start to automate a lot of things. So I truly believe in the next 3 years, maybe less, things that humans are clicking buttons to do right now will just be gone. We'll just say, hey, go do this thing. And we already see it. I'm on the coding side. You can go tell it to code and it will do a lot of the coding for you. In my personal life, I've automated workflows that would have been incredibly hard to do before. It's just getting the systems to support that. Mm-hmm. Is where we're pushing.
That's awesome. I think it's like funny because even from where ChatGPT, we'll talk about ChatGPT for a sec, like where that started in terms of like prompting it, figuring out kind of what prompts worked, what prompts didn't. And then, going from that to like today, where you just have a full-on common language conversation with it, right, and kind of figure out, learn how it wants to be prompted, but also it's learning how you prompt.
Right.
So just, everything geared towards action with that. curious what's an AI tool that has impressed you, and I guess like what was it solving for you?
The obvious one for me is Claude Code, which is a coding tool. For coding, it's incredible. In the last year alone, we've gone from toying around with AI to help with coding to complete autonomous agents building full stack applications. I mean, I've done it. I've built some side apps for my family where that would have been insane before, but we do like chores. And I built like a chore app and I didn't write any of the code and it works.
That's awesome. So essentially prompting it to become a tool that you want it to be.
Yeah, and building it through code. It still writes the code. We still deploy the code like an engineer would. But writing the actual commands in the code, it's quite good at a level that it's funny how people adapt. Now it's just normal. Like, I just like assume this can happen. Like a year ago, if you just a year ago said, hey, AI is going to write 90% of the code, I would have been, no way, not possible.
Just because it like didn't know how,
it just wasn't there.
Okay.
Just the speed at which the improvements have happened by these systems like Claude Code, Codex, and OpenAI has been remarkable.
Yeah.
And I don't think as a society we yet know how that's going to change software. Hardware, things that are more atom-based, different. But software, I can point an AI at a lot of things software-wise, and it's pretty good now. Hardware is a whole different challenge. Robotics, all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Roofing, if you're on a roof, putting the roofs down, maybe one day we'll get the robots there. And I think there are people working on that, but that's a ways away versus, hey, one day you may just have an app, JobNimbus, on your phone that replaces 20 different things you were doing before with just a few clicks of a button. Very possible.
As you have stepped into your chief AI officer role at JobNimbus, what has the approach been with you and your teams in kind of diving into that, like into building specific tools for contractors with them in mind? Because they're, we talked about like being, an action system, an operating system, something that they can just come to and hit buttons and have it work for them. What's your approach to actually doing that and speak the language of the contractor?
Yeah, where I want to get with AI is we build it for the problems of the contractors to solve their pain, but we build it for AIs to execute. That's a big gap we're trying to close, which is we don't want you clicking buttons at some point. We don't want you having to log into JobNimbus and click 20 different buttons to do a task. Say, create an estimate. Maybe you got to go and give all these things, click, 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 make sure all this stuff's set up, and then you finally send it. That takes you maybe a half hour. We want you to be able to go tell our AI, I need an estimate, and it will make the estimate for you. So in some level, we need a basic level of interaction for you to interact with your agentic team to complete value for you. And then our product needs to interact with agents very, very well to do that successfully. Because we still need to have the high quality bar that you would expect as the business owner. Mm-hmm. That's when
especially if like your operations are depending on it or your cash flow is depending on it. Like, yeah, it's pivotal at that point. It has to work.
But we see that's possible with AI. It's not easy. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of figuring out, building the checkpoints and having human in the loop at the right place. But we can push it a lot further than where we are now.
And is that just like a matter of collecting enough data, or is that a matter of actually like building the tools to maybe speak the language of the contractor a little bit better? As someone who doesn't know what goes into coding anything like that, I'm curious.
Yeah, the challenge for us and other companies is we built software for humans to interact with. But what you need is software for humans to guide now and AI interact with. So that's the gap we're trying to make up is our software might be quite easy for a human to interact with, but quite hard for an AI. For example, the user experience, you have to click, you have to move all these things around. On the back end, that's making software calls on your behalf. If we can make it easy for the AI to make those software calls in a way that's sensical, easy, hard for it to mess up, we can start tasking it with full chain automation. Like do this sequence of things programmatically. But because we built things for humans, a lot of it takes button clicking and isn't as easy to do without clicking the buttons. So as we move forward into the next years, I think most companies, including us, are going to shift more to The usability layer is for the humans to orchestrate or understand what the agents are doing underneath. Where right now the UX layer is to help you click a button and it runs a piece of software, you click another. Now you're going to click a button, it's going to run an agent. And so the software has to work well with agents. And we just didn't build that way before because it didn't exist.
For more like layman terms, this is something more like what like ChatGPT deep thinking does, where it kind of starts listing out, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm searching, this is where I'm pulling the data from, right in front of you, so that way you know it's not just like, I don't know, maybe this or maybe this sequence of things.
It's a great example. ChatGPT does tremendous amount of things for you. You can almost do anything with it if you can think of it. But the UX for the human is incredibly basic. It's a chat box with some thinking that's going on.
No other buttons, nothing, you don't have to go anywhere else.
Yeah, if you wanted to do deep think, you're not building a workflow.
No.
You just say, do this. And underneath, it's incredibly complex what OpenAI has built, where the agents has an orchestration layer to interact with to do that thing. And since they built that layer, they don't actually have to have a lot of complexity for you. That's a new way of thinking for software because it didn't exist. So a lot of software, the complexity is in the user experience because it has to be. But now it can be pushed down a level where it's in this software level where the agent operates, and then the UX can be a lot more clean. And you see this with newer products. If you start to use anything that's a little bit more what I call agentic, it's a lot more natural language, not as much button clicking, more assigning a task, and then it comes back with an answer. I can't imagine that people just don't expect that at some point. Like people don't not go to Google because they don't think they can find the answer. They go to ChatGPT because they don't want to click the button.
Exactly. Like, I don't want to have to scroll through anything. I don't want to read reviews. I want to preface that I want something that has been reviewed a certain amount of times at a certain rating, and then have chat give it back to me.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. I think thinking and reframing our brains as software users is super important, but obviously, reworking the code to make sense in that way. Yeah. That's the other half of the coin too. If we can talk about JobNimbus Scout a little bit.
Yeah.
JobNimbus Scout is an AI tool that we're in closed beta for. We're working on. We have a wait list for it right now. I'm curious kind of what the approach was to that, and maybe what are some of its capabilities.
Yeah.
Maybe just kind of walk us through a little bit more around the philosophy of why and what it is.
Yeah, it's really one of our first forays into this idea of having an agent take action on your behalf. So we connected a prompting box, a natural language interface where you type text or speak text. And underneath that agent that you're experiencing, or that chat bot, has access to call JobNimbus commands on your behalf. So you can imagine before, if you wanted to create a job or a workflow, you'd go in and click the buttons. Scout is essentially got access to interact with those workflows on your behalf, or check statuses, or do whatever you need. And we tell the AI through what's called tool calling that those things are available to it. And then the AI uses its understanding to try to call the right tools on your behalf. So it's us, and one reason it's in beta is we're trying to learn from users, is trying to figure out how to build the right interaction layer between our platform and AI, so that when you ask it to do something, it does it right every time. And it gives you the context you need every time. And that's hard. There's a lot of edge cases because we're essentially offloading some of the interaction to the AI to figure out. And that's what makes it feel magical, because you can just go in and be like, what are my jobs? Oh, and it's going to say, oh, it's probably talking about today. I have access to a thing called jobs. Let me go call it. Oh, here's the list. Okay, here's the things. Let me send it back to you. As opposed to us having to write a whole new specific piece of software just for that one thing. So Scout is us trying to make the product achieve more action on your behalf without us having to program it every single time.
Yeah, and even as basic as like updating contact info or updating job info, the practical implications of something like that are massive. Just because we talk to contractors all the time about specific tasks that slow them down, specific tasks that don't get done because they didn't have time in the moment to do it. AI tools like JobNimbus Scout are helping in the moment, shave off a few minutes, making sure that the tasks that you need to complete are getting done properly. I'm curious, in a world, the trades are kind of interesting, roofing specifically, where like there is kind of a big range of people's familiarity with AI or AI tools. We have some very technical users. We have some very non-technical users. What is your approach? And as we build more tools for JobNimbus, what's your approach in terms of making it simple enough for some of those that are less technical, but also how are we building trust in AI? I think that with that comes a lot of unfamiliarity with what AI is exposing us to, or maybe some of the gaps there. Just curious kind of what your take is on some of that.
Yeah, we've definitely got to keep focused on solving the pain for the customer. It's not about AI for AI's sake in the same way it wasn't about coding for coding's sake. The reason we coded JobNimbus is to solve problems for contractors. So how do we use AI to solve your pain point? And how do we do it in a way that it doesn't matter if you know it's AI or if it's not AI? If you think about ChatGPT, which has crazy adoption now, most of those people aren't technical. My mom uses ChatGPT all the time. Why does she use it? Because it's easy. You can just go in and ask it anything. So that's one thing. It's got to be easy. It solves her pain. She has a question and she wants an answer. And she's been able to trust it more often than not. So her belief that it will provide the value she's looking for is high. That third one can be tricky. If your first experience with more of an AI experience to help solve your pain is poor, then you tend to not believe it. So if you think back like a year ago, why weren't more people using ChatGPT? Because the ratio of success to failure was still not quite there for mass adoption, where people on the fringes are more okay with like adapting to that failure and figuring it out and prompt engineering and doing all these things to make it work. As the tools got better and better, the models got better and better, the prompt engineering doesn't matter as much. You can just go in there and ask it something and it will figure it out. A year ago, that wouldn't have happened as well. So for JobNimbus, we really need your first experience to be magical. To be, hey, I had this pain, I gave it this kind of abstract idea to solve my pain, and it did it successfully. Otherwise, you get in this loop of distrust, and it's hard to win people back, which I get. You don't want to offload important things and then get them wrong. It's actually not helpful. Right?
Yeah, it's counterproductive in many ways. It sets people back. It sets your process back. It confuses your employees. All the things that we know happen, right? Like it's no secret that if you have automations misfiring or sending to the wrong customer, it is doing far more damage than it is good. I think, and to your point about prompt engineering and things like that, even from a marketing standpoint, I've been in marketing for the last few years. Even as a marketer trying to figure out a year and a half ago, how to prompt ChatGPT specifically to like give me some data I could use. And then flash forward to today, before I had to kind of maybe double check a couple things, maybe double check my data, maybe ask them to cite some sources, then I go look at those sources. Today is kind of second nature. It's like I know that if I'm stipulating certain things in my prompt, hey, it can't be this, it can't come from here, it's got to be X, Y, or Z. For the most part, my trust has grown significantly. So in a tool like JobNimbus, where all of your contact information, all of your jobs data is stored, especially more locally, like it's easier for that trust to wither.
Right.
But then also once you build that trust in the right way, if they do truly have that magical experience, then they're never going to use. Right. Contractors will never need to use another tool if it's baked into the system that they're already on.
Right.
So I think that's awesome. I'm curious from just a general AI frame of thinking, what are some common misconceptions you hear or have heard that maybe don't apply anymore, maybe you've had to correct? I'm just curious. You're one of the few like executives in this space that I think, possesses a lot of experience, but also knowledge about AI in general.
One that I hear that I think is a hard one for people to overcome is the idea that you can get better at using AI. So while it is more magical the first time around, I'm a big believer that as you use it more, you get better with it. It's like a new tool that people have access to, like the internet. If you first started using the internet, you would not know a lot of the things you've known by using the internet for a decade. It's the same thing with AI. It's really good. It's not perfect, but it's a very powerful tool. People should expect to spend time learning the tool. And if you don't, you're likely going to get left behind in some way in your career, personally, in your hobbies even. The ability to use this thing to move you forward. It's like if you weren't using the internet right now, people would look at you like, what the heck?
Yeah.
I think AI is very, very quickly going to be that. It's like, why would you do it without AI? It's not going to make sense to people at some point. We're not there yet, But I really think people should be investing time so that if they don't feel like they've expertly mastered the tool, that they do get there. And then it moves so quickly that you should always question if you're doing the right thing, because it changes. Like the tools get better, the models get better. A thing you tried a month ago that didn't work that well might work now. So the people I see really getting a ton of value out of it are constantly reevaluating what's possible, because the space moves so quickly, faster than any industry I've ever seen. Like every day almost, big changes are happening. New models dropped from Anthropic and OpenAI last week, and they're just all competing. Billions of dollars are trading hands here to compete against each other, and it's forcing this insane speed. So you've got to stick with it. You got to try to learn. You got to try to grow. So my biggest thing that I try to help people understand is don't just be on the wave and getting pushed by it, but try to adapt, learn, grow, and continue to get better with it.
Mm-hmm. That being said, because it's moving so fast and things that maybe weren't possible, a couple years ago, or even a few months ago, may very well be possible in the next little bit. What's kind of your take on the JobNimbus side of things? What other areas do you see contractor technology making big impact? Are there any other tools, any other types of tools that maybe we're not even thinking about right now that could very well appear in the next few years?
Almost surely. Which ones will they be? I don't know.
Hard to tell.
Yeah, hard to tell. What I can say is, again, the software piece, the system of action, I think we'll get a lot better at connecting the whole life cycle for a contractor and do it in a way that feels more like you have another person on your team as opposed to just a software. Mm-hmm. So you've got JobNimbus, not a software, but a software with agentic team members helping you. I would be surprised if in a few years that isn't more of a natural expectation that comes with software, that you have these agents running and helping you in moving things forward. Like the idea that you could forget to send an invoice or something should just not happen, which happens, right? People forget, humans forget.
Right.
And even though we have like email reminders or whatever it might be, you could totally just have an agent on that. And it's like, yeah, I give you the permission to resend anything that's past due and keep sending it. And then, flag it to me if it's not going forward. And some of that's already possible, but where AI can really help is make decisions to move things forward without you having to always check in on it. And so where I think we'll see more progress is people's acceptance of that idea in a product, so that they're mentally okay with letting go of some of that control because they've seen that it works. And I believe that will open up a lot of things I can't even think about with where people are going to spend their time, things we're going to try to automate that we never thought we could. I mean, you might be able to get to a place where you're taking like an Eagle view image and going all the way to an estimate without having a human in the loop. Like if you really think about it, what is the human piece of that? You could probably build the whole thing. So you could go from, speed to lead of like maybe hours, because you got to like process all this information put together to like instantaneously.
Yeah.
And what does that mean?
It's already done that for you. You pull it real time.
Real time comes through. It's trusted enough. You pass it to the AI, pulls out the data. It knows the current pricing on supplies. It knows what insurances will accept, not accept. It puts it all together, packages it up, sends it out with your brand name.
Yeah. I think that piece, when you mention like, essentially we're talking like tasks being eliminated because the AI is that trustworthy and that baked into the system that we can really rely anywhere that you would have clicked a button or had to make maybe even some like industry assumptions, right? Like, are they going to want, essentially we're talking about like different pricing tiers, maybe at different, different types of shingles, those kinds of things. When we talk about materials and like some of the areas where it's like, I need a roofer to tell me which materials are better, which materials, have different lifespans, things like that. I think that's really cool. And I think that it's important to like think about this in terms of like running and operating a business in a world where technology is zooming forward, even if your business is, in the trades. And if you are roofing or putting up fencing or doing any sort of siding, I think that's like, I think it's important for us to remember that even though our work is physical, a lot of the work that takes us away from that can be automated. And I think that there is a learning curve for trust. There's a learning curve for learning the tools. But if you are talking to a contractor today who wants to start a roofing business or just a business, what are some recommendations? What's some advice you would give them in terms of implementing AI from day one, or implementing AI in the right way in their process?
Yeah, it's a good question. What I advise people to do is rethink everything. Meaning, if you're starting a new business, a roofing business in this example, go play around with AI a bit before you solidify who you need, what your processes are going to be, see where it's good, see where it's bad, and assume that however we work now is going to change. We have this new tool injected into our society that we're still trying to figure out. So things are going to change. How do you be ahead of that? What are the pieces now that are easier, like the pen and paper thing? I mean, this is not new for contractors or anything. There's still a lot of people using pen and paper. Why? Well, it was kind of easy to get started, and you get used to it. Change is hard. You have your systems, but then you hit the scaling point of you can't do it all with pen and paper. You lose things get lost, like physically lost, like it's just gone.
Right.
So what do? You start to move into the internet. You start to move into digital. If I were going to start my own roofing company, I would think, how far can I go as a single person with AI doing everything else? And how far can I push it? And then I would hire people around the gaps that come up and invest in software like JobNimbus that's going that direction, so you can point AI to solve tasks on your behalf. Because at some point, your competitors are going to figure it out. Someone's going to figure out how to be way more efficient on some of these software things. And what that will mean is they'll spend more time selling, talking to their customers, building the relationships. So it's not that the people are going away. It's just they're using their people in a more reasonably or effective way, given what the technology is.
Right.
Where if you go back 100 years, think about like farming, one of the more basic things we've always done is, created ways to make food. Farming is a lot more automated, a lot more software, a lot more big machinery. That's allowed us to do that at a huge scale with less people, but we still need food. And people did other things in the farming now. It's going to be the same for some of these industries. We're going to figure that, not that we don't need people, but that we will do different things with those people. So as opposed to maybe doing all the manual labor, a big machine's doing that, and a person's thinking about the logistics. I don't know. I'm not a farmer.
Yeah.
But I'm a much bigger believer that this is going to increase humanity's successfulness if used well, because most technology has done that. It's created more abundance. It's created more opportunity. And transitions are always hard. It's hard to be in a transition because you've got what I refer to as the innovator's dilemma, which is a book by Clay Christensen, where you've known a thing your whole life that's worked for you to some degree, and now you have to learn something else.
Right.
And the innovator's
quickly,
dilemma,
in many ways.
Yes. When do you do that?
Right.
When do you decide that it's painful enough for me that I need to learn this new thing? Or how long do you run the risk of not adapting? And companies deal with this too. You see, Kodak disappears because they didn't adapt to the iPhone market quick enough, or BlackBerry, right? They had this innovator's dilemma, super successful, but then things changed. So it's not to diminish the challenge right now, but I do think as we adapt, we will ultimately see more abundance and more things that are good from this technology as we find ways to use it and repurpose our time to better stuff.
Yeah, I think back to, even as large scale eras as like the Industrial Revolution, or electricity being a little bit more widespread. I think to your point, there have always been times throughout history where people, large groups of people have been faced with these kinds of changes. And it's not that to your point, it's not that we don't have space for people. It's not that we don't have a need for employees. It's figuring out the best use of their time, especially as there's more of a demand for like attention, and in a growing AI world where like human connection is more valued, but in different ways. I think it's really interesting. I have one of my brothers he also works in marketing, and he started a few different agencies and started some companies, but right now he's realizing how effective he is with things like Claude, where he's just plugging into different apps that he's using, different systems that he's using. And he's becoming much more efficient, and he's not hiring more people. He's not hiring
Right.
Other good marketers, other good talented employees. He's teaching them how to be more efficient, so then they can scale much faster. So it's not necessarily a matter of, oh, I can't, I shouldn't bring people on because I don't have work for them. It's like, no, how big can my company get in the next 5 years? So that way, and how efficient can we run, so we can support maybe revenue targets and goals that we've never even dreamed, because all my employees are dedicated towards efficient use of time or X, Y, or Z that's actually moving the needle. I think it's a really interesting era to be a part of across different industries, and I think the trades are always top of mind for me in many ways. But curious about JobNimbus Scout. One more thing: what is something that you are most excited about with that tool?
I'm excited by the capacity it has to rethink how people interact with JobNimbus. The idea of it being a single point of entry that's natural language that can accomplish tasks on your behalf where we want to get it to could fundamentally reimagine how people get value from our product, and matches more where I see the expectations going. People are expecting that type of love in their products where they just are like, this is awesome. I can just go tell it what I want. It comes back, it does the work, as opposed to going in and doing a lot of work yourself. I mean, again, the Google search example. I know Google searches are way down relatively, but then people would just use Gemini. They're still accessing that information. They're doing it through a different interface that's more agentic, that's more making decisions on their behalf, what to click on, what articles to grab, what information to synthesize. And it turns out it's pretty good at that. I really think Scout's the right step towards us figuring out how to do that for contractors, where you just interact at a layer that you are most comfortable with, and the product takes care of the rest. You don't have to worry about, do I know where all the buttons are, or click them in the right sequence, or set up the exact right automation or workflow, which is a real challenge in products like ours right now. Like workflow automation, CRM software is complicated because we try to support humans that have a lot of needs and things, but AI can do a lot of that for us if we can connect it well. So Scout, I think, is moving us in that direction.
Any examples you have throughout your career of a time that AI made someone's life better, changed a business, anything in that realm?
Yeah, totally. One of the things that impressed me when I joined JobNimbus was a product we have called Assist AI. And it essentially will answer the phone for you. It'll use AI, it'll use the voice, and it will schedule through JobNimbus your person that reached out when you couldn't get a hold of them. And this, I thought, was such a good use case for AI for contractors, because I've had work done on my house or other things, and they're busy. A lot of times there are people that are also running around, they've got a lot of stuff going on, but that's dollars coming to them, right, that they're missing when they don't answer the phone. If I call and I don't get an answer, I'm probably calling somebody else, maybe they answer, I'm not getting on your schedule. Assist AI was cool because it's using AI to interact with your customers, and I'll admit, probably not as well as you could have as a person, but it's getting them on your calendar and filling that gap where it's mostly just interrupting your day. You don't need a lot of expertise. It's mostly just getting them on the calendar. And that's a great use case. Like, get that off of your back, get it off your thing. We're actually working to make that product even better. So there's some changes that'll be coming, but that is such a good example for people that are already overworked, frankly, to get things off of them that are still very important to making money. And AI just helps make that easier. Without AI, you really couldn't do that well.
Yeah, that's an example of you immediately shaving time off of your day.
Right.
You're immediately eliminating tasks. If you're an owner operator and you are running a really tight ship, that is time away from being able to double check on projects, to follow up with other customers, maybe in some cases following up on payments.
Right.
So you very well might be losing out on money already in your pipeline because you're focused on other tasks elsewhere. I love that. I think it's incredibly practical for so many different reasons and for so many different people across contracting businesses. Massive thanks to Tyler for joining us today. Really appreciate his insights. To get on the JobNimbus Scout wait list, go ahead and click the link in the description and follow us on social.